Hello, everybody. My name is Adel Sisy, and today I'm going to be talking to you about responsible AI usage guidelines for scientific research. However, before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I am the co-founder of two different companies. The first is onlineknowledge.net, where I host all of my scientific research. And over the past 2 years, I have been able to receive about 20 national and international recognitions for all of my scientific research. One of those recognitions, most recently, has been presenting at the Intelligent Systems for Molecular Biology conference in Liverpool, UK, with my molecular biology, computational biology research. Additionally, another recent accomplishment is being nominated as one of the top 300 junior innovators as part of the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovator Challenge for that same project. Now, my second company is my nonprofit, inspiredk.org, where I help K through 12 and college students with STEM fields, including artificial intelligence and science and engineering research. One of my most recent programs was an artificial intelligence enablement course with Houston Community College, where I instructed their students on some of the most recent models in artificial intelligence. Another program I have is the Science and Engineering Research Program, where I post videos to help guide students through the process of building a science fair project from ideation all the way to presentation. Now, I'd also like to introduce my assistant for today's presentation, Bemo. Can you please introduce yourself? And Beimo is actually one of my most recent projects, and I was able to receive the 3M Young Sciences Challenge State Merit Award from Texas for this project, and I modified him for today's purposes.
Absolutely, Adele. I'm Bemo, your educational AI teaching system, developed by you, Adel Sisy from Online Knowledge. I'm here to support you during your live presentation on generative AI use guidelines for scientific research. My role is to help clarify points about the responsible and acceptable use of AI in student research projects, offer suggestions for supervising AI use in classrooms, and assist with strategies for science fair judges to evaluate AI contributions in student work. If you have any more questions or need further support, feel free to ask.
Does that sound like fun? All right. So what I plan to do today is to instruct you on responsible AI usage guidelines for students in scientific research, for teachers to detect that scientific research AI usage, and to also use AI in their classroom, and for science fair judges to be able to tell how much of the students' work was really theirs and how much did AI assist or help them with. And I thought, what better way to learn about responsible AI usage by demonstrating in real time responsible AI usage with my novel AI tutor, Beimo, while also learning the guidelines through Beimo's assistance. We're going to start with one of the most common questions that students always have when they are starting a science fair project. How do I start? So let's go ahead and consult Beimo. How can I use AI to help me get started with a science fair project? And usually students would ask this kind of question to their teachers or to their mentors, but those teachers and mentors have not a lot of time really because they have to teach, they have other students to take care of. So we can use AI to help that and help have a personal mentor in your computer with no actual person required for this kind of step. So as Bemo has suggested, we have a few different ways we can use AI. First, we can use AI to help brainstorm some ideas. So for example, you could tell AI like Beimo, I'm interested in astronomy. Can you give me some project ideas? And then from there, you can kind of filter down those ideas to specific interest fields like specific planets, specific moons, whatever you're interested in astronomy. And AI can help get you to a specific idea that you'd truly be interested in. Now, once you have your idea, you have to do some background research. And when you do background research, you have to review lots of scientific articles and research papers that could have a lot of complex terminology for your average middle or high schooler. So what AI can do is help you sort through all of those papers to find ones related to your topic of interest and also explain complex terminology, summarize the papers, and help you filter through the vast available information on your topic of interest. Now, a third thing you can use AI for is once you have the background research, once you have the idea, you actually have to start working on your project. But when you start working, there are a lot of different things to get through: the methodology, the materials, all kinds of stuff. So AI can help you organize your process and also organize your research paper in the future. And with that organization, it can help you get started a lot faster and not spend as much time on the logistics of things. Finally, AI can help you write your research paper or also help you draft some presentations to be able to present your work to experts in the field, like at science fairs in the poster board or a slides presentation or something like that. Now, once students started their project, they have to get to the next step. And in that next step, they should find scientific literature in their field of interest, and they should be able to summarize them and have the specific papers that they'd like to go through. But there are some different ways that they can use AI. For example, they could completely rely on AI and have no internal thinking process, or they could use AI as an assistant on the side and also have their own thinking process through what they want to do. So let's consult with Bemo on some acceptable and unacceptable uses of AI. And especially in student research, because different guidelines are different for academic research or teachers, because with students in the grades 6 through 12, it's often important for them to use AI differently than somebody in a higher education. So let's start with some acceptable uses, which is some that we've already covered, like getting ideas, summarizing literature, helping with writing. But also, AI can help with data analysis. So once you have your idea, you have some data, and you want some help analyzing it, AI can help you write code or even create graphs by itself. So that way, it can help speed up the science research process while you still have your own thinking process and you're not completely relying on AI to do everything for you. Additionally, organizing your poster board and organizing your presentation is something we've already covered. And AI can help with learning resources. So, for example, while you're in the field and you need some help with data analysis, maybe if you're not comfortable with using AI to be able to assist you with your data analysis or visualization, you could use AI to help you find your own resources to actually do that analysis or visualization yourself. Now, let's look at some unacceptable uses of AI. So, for example, using AI to completely plagiarize your work. So, fully relying on AI to give you text or give you data or give you analysis without acknowledging its use or relying on it completely fully and not really showing that you had your own depth of knowledge and thinking process. Additionally, using AI to fabricate data is absolutely unacceptable because whenever you're doing science research, if the results that you find are not truly accurate, then it's not a useful research. And fabricating data is the worst way to be able to get data because it will lead to a lot of inaccurate results as well as plagiarism issues and other kinds of issues like that. Additionally, allowing the AI to write the whole project for you, do the whole project for you from beginning to end is completely unacceptable because it's your passion project. You should be able to work on it yourself and have assistance from AI so that way you can have your own thinking process and your own learning process as well. Then using AI to have learning completely bypassed and don't actually learn any of the terminology yourself is not good, especially since in science fair, when you're presenting, you're not going to be able to rely on AI to do the presentation for you, and you actually have to present your own work because it is your own work after all. Finally, disclosing AI in your process is especially important. And if you ignore citations of AI or ignore acknowledgement of your use, it could lead to issues later in science fair as well as plagiarism issues in general. Okay, we understand how we can use AI responsibly to get started and some acceptable versus unacceptable use cases. Now, let's get started on our project and have some scientific literature finding tools. So let's ask Bemo, how can we be able to have some AI tools that can help us find some scientific literature available and related to our field? And it's especially important to have a tool that can be able to actually find something related to your topic of interest, because there are a lot of opportunities where, for example, if you ask AI, give me some research papers that sound really cool and the science fair judge will be super impressed, it's going to give you either some really complex papers, or it's just going to give you something that is not related to something you really want to do, you're really passionate about. We can see here that we have a few tools suggested by Bemo, including Elicit, which is a tool that I've found is very helpful to be able to allow you to find some research papers or academic literature relevant to exact fields of interest. And there are some other similar tools like Research Rabbit and Semantic Scholar that do similar tasks as well. However, I've also found that a tool called Connected Papers is very helpful as well, because you can give it a specific paper you've already found and you definitely want to write about and read, and it can help you find related papers in the same field covering a similar topic that you can also reference, so you can have a wider scope of knowledge. Instead of just focusing on a few papers, you can focus on a lot larger scope. Additionally, cite.ai is another tool that does something similar to both of those, combining them, and also helps you cite those papers and cite the AI usage as well. Now, we have our scientific literature and we found some interesting papers, but when you're in middle school or high school, it's really difficult to read these papers, especially since some of them can be 50, 60, 70 pages long. And even sometimes you don't have time to read those kind of papers, even if you understand them. So let's see what kind of tools are available that can help us summarize our scientific literature. And a lot of these tools don't just summarize the scientific literature, but they also help you explain the complex terminologies or also find other kinds of papers as well. So while you're finding papers, you can summarize them as you go to see if you should dig deeper into them, or if you should just kind of set them aside maybe for future research or for a different topic, or maybe even for others who you think it could help them because they are interested in a similar field. So we can see that there are some similar tools like Elicit and Semantic Scholar that we already saw before that can do this kind of summarization for the scientific literature as you're finding them. But there are also some other helpful tools like Scholarcy, SciSummary, and Paper Digest, which can generate summaries for these papers, explain different parts of the papers, and even create some flashcards that can allow you to understand specific parts of the paper and even remember it. So that way, when you're going into a presentation, you can even reference those papers like you really read them and understood them without any AI. Although, I should note here that it is important to still cite AI, because just showing that you used AI but you don't acknowledge its use, that's not good at all. You should always cite your use of AI, because it shows that you're responsible, and also it's very common nowadays to use AI, so it might even look a little bit suspicious that you have a very advanced project and you didn't use AI at all. Now, we have our started project, we have the background research, but what we need to do now is that we need to dive deep into our idea and actually conduct some data analysis and data visualization. And AI is a very helpful tool for those kind of tasks. So let's ask Bemo, how can I use AI for scientific data analysis and visualization? Because the two really play hand in hand together a lot. Because you can have your analysis, but when you're ready to present, you have nothing to visualize it with. There's no graphs, there's no tables, and it's really difficult to understand what you really did without having some visualization of it. So we can see that Bemo suggested some tools for data analysis, like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Google Bard, which can explain concepts to you, not actually perform the analysis, and it can allow you to understand what kind of tests you should use, the steps of your analysis that you should conduct, and it helps you kind of create an outline that you can use in the future for your data analysis. Additionally, in spreadsheets like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, they have some built-in AI features, like for example, Google Sheets AI plugins that can allow you to analyze some patterns or generate some charts from the tables that you build in Excel or Google Sheets. And it can allow you to make data analysis of those kind of tables a lot faster and a lot easier. Now, for data visualization, there are different tools such as the Google Sheets or Excel AI plugins that can allow you to generate graphs. But also, there are some AI tools called Chart AI and Flourish that can allow you to actually have some AI assisted generation of graphs using code like Matplotlib and Pandas to create accurate graphs rather than an AI generated image of a graph, which probably wouldn't be that accurate. Okay, we did our data analysis and visualization. We have the idea, we have the background research. So our project is probably almost done. But wait, we have to present it. And presenting is a very critical part to your scientific research. And of course, that's the whole point of the science fairs, to allow students to connect with mentors in their field and actually get advice on their scientific research to see if the way they're presenting it and the way they conducted it is actually similar to how real scientists in the field actually do it. Additionally, presenting your research is the only way that it's really going to get out there, because otherwise your research is just going to sit at home with you and you'll never really have anybody to help you with it or advance it further or even take it to the next level and maybe even create a business, especially if you're in high school. So for presentations, AI can help with a lot. Like I've already mentioned before with the data visualization, Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Excel, all have kinds of tools for AI that can help you build visualizations of your data and also graphics that can make your presentation pop more. Additionally, there are tools like Beautiful.ai and Canva AI that can help with those kind of slide formattings as well. And whenever you want to build a slide presentation, it's really important to organize the slide well, because otherwise it can sometimes be hard to follow. Additionally, AI has now actually recently been able to have speech assistance. So when you're practicing for your actual live presentation with the judges, you can use tools like ChatGPT, Jasper AI, and also there are a few other apps even as well available for you to practice your speech, and you can even customize the different kind of judge attitudes, skeptical, excited, etc., to have all kinds of judges and prepare you for all kinds of people. So when you're going to present, you can be confident that you're going to present really well. Okay, it seems like we're done. We already presented our project. But before we present, there's a very crucial step, AI usage citation. And there are a lot of different ways to go about this. So for example, you can have your bibliography and then use short citations, or you can also have some AI usage recognitions where you have a section in your research paper or your research project showing that you used AI and you acknowledge that you used it, and also showing for which parts you used it and how specifically you used it for different graphics or for different parts of your presentation in all aspects. So you can really show that you're being transparent about your process. So Bemo is agreeing, of course, and he's acknowledging that he's saying that we can acknowledge AI in our methods or even in a special AI acknowledgement section. So for example, I used ChatGPT to help me brainstorm some ideas, or I used Elicit or Research Rabbit to be able to help me find some literature in my field. And that can be the best way to show clearly, transparently how you used AI. But also, it's especially important to actually have citations in MLA or APA or Chicago formats to make sure that you're following all of the guidelines. And you should also have the inline citations and the bibliography to make sure that you're fully following all standards. In fact, recently, ISEF 2025 and 2026 has actually updated their guidelines on AI, and in their rulebook, they have a lot of more specific regulations about AI usage, including that it must be cited in your bibliography and other kinds of regulations like that. In addition to citing in your bibliography, it can be helpful to provide more details in the context of your research paper rather than just a large acknowledgement section, although having both together could be helpful. So for example, a small footnote at the bottom marked with a little 1 for that page saying that this image was generated by ChatGPT, or this text was assisted by ChatGPT to help me with an outline, for example. And also, we already usually have in the materials section what kind of tools we used or what kind of methodologies we followed. So we can also include AI there as well in the tools used section. So you can just add ChatGPT, Elicit, Research Rabbit, whatever you use to help you in terms of AI with your projects. Now, the student is ready to go. But unfortunately, today we don't have every student attending SEFH here. So the second step of protection for responsible AI usage is to have the teachers into the process. So with teachers, they can help detect AI usage in the project using a variety of tools. So let's consult Bemo. How can teachers use AI and other kinds of tools to detect AI usage in student research projects? And most importantly, also determine if it was used responsibly. And the teachers are an especially important part, play an especially important part in this. Because while the AI is helping the students take less time from the teachers and the mentors, it's still important for the teachers to verify that the student is using the AI well. It would be just like if the student came to the teacher and asking for some advice, that the way you should think about it is that the teacher should be able to monitor that the student is using AI in a similar way as if they were talking to their teacher and should be requesting similar advice. So, for example, a student wouldn't go to a teacher and ask, "Can you please give me the answers to this quiz?" But they can do that with AI. So, we have to make sure that they're using the AI responsibly and not doing that and using AI as an assistant rather than just a substitute teacher that will answer any lovely requests that they have. So let's look at the suggestions from Beimo. So for teachers, the first step they can do is solve the problem upstream, have their students use AI usage declarations, just like in the research project that we were talking about previously, and even on major assignments in general as well, to make sure that students are responsibly using AI. However, students are sneaky, so they're probably going to lie there. So there are some other ways as well. We can have the teacher, if they're suspicious, ask the student for an oral explanation, talking to the teacher one-on-one to be able to make sure that the student actually has depth of understanding of their project or of the major assignment that they were working on. And the teacher can actually see how the student used AI and ask them specific questions. Furthermore, it can also help the student prepare for judging at the same time because the teacher can ask regular judging questions as well to help detect that depth of knowledge. Additionally, teachers can ask for the drafts or even the chat transcript from the students so that way they can see how the student actually used AI. Because it's very difficult to fabricate chat transcripts, especially since you can probably see if they asked a question and the response is very similar to what they actually wrote for their essay, then you could tell it probably wasn't their essay. Finally, you can use different tools, for example, GPT-0, Turnitin, and those kinds of tools can use AI to detect AI. And although they're not completely foolproof, it is a good initial step. So that way, when you're looking through a student's project or major assignment, you can make sure that they used the AI only to some degree rather than 100% fully. So it looks like we're ready for the teacher to detect AI usage. And it seems like it's probably really difficult for these teachers to monitor that kind of AI usage. There are lots of steps that we covered, but there are lots of benefits. And teachers should always be open to having AI used in their classroom. So let's ask Beimo for some of those reasons. And it's especially important to be open to AI because even outside of the classroom, it's always important to prepare for real life or even higher education in general because AI is going to become a major part of our world. It's not going to go away, it's not going to just disappear, it's here to stay. And it's going to have to be integrated to some degree in every aspect of our life if we want to be able to stay modern and stay up to date with all of the recent technologies. So Bemo has given us some real life advantages, including having some reflection of real world practices. As I was saying, in the real world, AI is not going to be completely shut away. In jobs, people might even use AI to help them do data analysis of a company's financial issues, or for a CEO to help make a pitch to another CEO to help acquire their company. AI has lots of applications, not just in education, and it's important to start in education to nurture the AI usage for students to make sure that they use it responsibly when they go out into the real world. Additionally, AI can help enhance the learning experience. For example, Bemo is an AI tutor that can help personalize learning for K through 12 students. And even outside of Bemo, there are other kinds of tools that can allow for that kind of personalized education, not just limiting students to a one-on-one lesson with a teacher or a class lesson with a teacher, which can only really do so much. Additionally, although it sounds counterintuitive, AI can actually help foster critical thinking if used correctly. And a lot of you may be thinking that AI actually eliminates critical thinking when students rely on it too much. But that's not the case if they don't rely on it too much. And if they use it as an assistant, then it can be able to truly help the student in their learning journey. Also, AI can help encourage the creativity and the problem solving in addition to the critical thinking, and also help students, for example, who are more limited in their language, if they're bilingual, if they have issues with specific topics, if they missed a whole month of class because of a broken leg, whatever it is, students can use AI to help catch up or to help just level everything out so all students have an equal learning opportunity and nobody really gets left behind. Finally, since AI is going to be such an important part of the future, it's important for students to actually be able to use the AI because having the usage of AI responsibly is important. And when they go out into the real world, if they don't have those guidelines for what they should be using AI for, they might do kinds of irresponsible things with the AI. And that's why people are always fearing, oh no, AI is going to take over the world. Well, if you use it properly in education, then it's probably not, because students and these kids who are our future are going to be able to understand how to use it correctly and hopefully prevent AI from taking over the world. All right. So I've been talking a lot about why it's important to use AI, but teachers as well as students are probably wondering what kind of rules should they follow or put in place to be able to use this AI responsibly. And also, what kind of AI usage policies should be put in at a larger scope so that way districts or schools can have more concrete guidelines for their teachers and students. And in my experience, this probably isn't true for a lot of other places, but students usually don't care what the teacher has to say. Like they follow it to a certain degree, but when it really gets down to it, if they're in the middle of the night and they forgot about their English essay due at 1 in the morning, they're probably just going to use AI, even if the teacher said AI is an automatic zero, because they're smart enough now to tell that teachers don't always detect the AI usage because they have a lot of papers to go through. So setting some general rules as a start is good, but in the future, it's also important to have some AI usage policies from the school or district, because when it comes from a higher level, it's usually more important in the student's mind that they see a higher punishment is more likely or possible even for a student to have if they don't follow the AI usage policy in comparison to just their teacher's rules. So for the teacher's rules, there are some simple rules that they can implement in their class guidelines. So first, transparency, having an AI use assignment, an AI usage a statement for the major assignments or their science research project, making sure that they're very open and disclosing all of their AI usage, as well as making sure that students understand how to use AI as an assistant rather than a full substitute to a teacher, so they can actually maintain the critical thinking and depth of knowledge instead of fully relying on AI. Additionally, citing AI in their work is always important, not using AI to fabricate anything or plagiarize anything. And also understanding how AI can actually help rather than just using it as a tool because all of their friends are using AI and oh, I should probably use AI too. Let me ask my friend how to use it. No, you should ask the teacher how to use it. You can make sure you use it well because it's most important that you use it well, not that you are more hip and cool like your friends using AI to cheat on the assignment. Woohoo! And finally, making sure that students actually are using AI privately and safely is important because nowadays a lot of students don't really think before they act, in all honesty. And whenever they start just doom scrolling a little bit, they go for hours. So when they use AI, it's important to make sure that they don't disclose any personal information. They make sure that they're keeping their data private and they're also in accordance with school policy. So they're not giving the secret password to their teacher's computer to AI and saying, how can I use this to hack my teacher's computer? No, we're not doing that. We're going to make sure it's used safely, privately, responsibly. That's the most important part. Now, as I was saying previously, it's important to have an acceptable AI usage policy in place for the school or district. So let's ask Bemo for some help with that kind of a policy that can be implemented by districts or schools to be able to have a higher level of rules available for the students and the teachers to understand how they should use AI responsibly in their classrooms. And this is especially important because, as I was saying before, teachers can only really do so much. And also, school and district officials can make it more normalized and help teachers use these kind of AI policies more easily. Because once they set the ground zero, teachers don't have to add too much onto it and only have to tweak specific things. For example, saying you can only use AI for these kind of applications in English in comparison to the science teacher saying you can only use it here, math here, and something like that. So similar to what we were seeing with the policy for the teachers, there's transparency and disclosure, making sure that students have transcripts available from their chats, making sure that they're following their teacher's rules, and having kind of the ground zero to make sure that students are being very transparent and open about how they're using AI. Then some basic guidelines for how AI should be appropriately used. For example, brainstorming ideas for your project or helping you organize your paper or your essay that's due tomorrow. And also making sure that you're not just fully relying on AI and having it generate all your assignments for you or plagiarizing using AI. Then we have some more specific rules about having academic integrity with student work and citing the AI to make sure that they're being fully transparent about everything, always making sure that they're responsibly using AI. Additionally, they should only use the approved tools by their teacher, by the school, by the district, because sometimes there might be some 18 plus AI chatbot that a student found and they're so excited to use it when they get free time, but it's not good to do that. So it's important to emphasize that they only should be using approved tools, Elicit, Research Rabbit, ChatGPT, maybe in some cases, Google Gemini, things like that. Finally, we end the statement with some teacher supervision guidelines, making sure that teachers are always in the process with the students and making sure that they're ensuring that the students are actually using their AI well and ensuring that there are consequences if the student is not responsibly using AI according to whatever the teacher or the school or the district has in place for those kind of issues that they encounter. Okay, so it looks like we're ready to have our student responsibly using AI and the teacher is detecting that AI usage and verifying it. But teachers are now really busy because they have to go through the student projects. They have to make sure the students are using AI responsibly. But now it's important to make sure that teachers can also use AI so that way they can speed up their full teaching process. So let's consult Bemo. How can teachers be able to use AI so that way they can make classes more engaging and also ensure that the classes are easier to prepare for because teachers have to do a lot of lesson planning and other kinds of things that they have to do before they actually get to teaching for a really short amount of time. And AI can help make that a lot more simple so that way they don't spend as much time on the lesson planning and actually can focus on teaching well and making their classes really fun so they're the favorite teacher of the school. So, as I said, lesson planning can be really helpful. So, using ChatGPT, Gemini can just kind of get you started with some text or some images that you can use. But also, there are some platforms like Quizzes, Kahoot, Blookit that use these kind of interactive games generated by AI. So that way, teachers don't have to spend hours writing questions down for their quizzes that the students just click through and they don't really care about it. So they can speed those kind of things up and customize them as well. Additionally, they can. Do you have something to say? Absolutely. Absolutely. All kinds of things you can do with AI, all aspects of the teaching process you can automate with AI. And also, you can add on to that by actually letting the students use AI, like we were discussing, through apps that already don't use AI, but they can have AI features like Khan Academy's Khanmigo. Duolingo is even adding some AI features. And it can help them have a more adaptive learning experience. Also, you can use AI to help create some interactive content. So, for example, there are some platforms like Pear Deck that allow you to have AI generated slide decks that even have AI built into them to be able to evaluate student responses and make it a lot easier to have slides that the teachers can use to be able to have faster lesson plans rather than just spending lots of time either buying resources to use from other teachers or building it themselves, which takes a lot of time from them. Additionally, although personally I don't recommend this, but maybe in the future it will be better, AI can actually help with grading and providing student feedback, especially with ChatGPT now with the new innovations. If you give, let's say, ChatGPT a prompt, this is the assignment description, this is the rubric, here's a student essay. Can you give me the score, 0 to 100? It can do that to some degree, but I feel like you should kind of also review it yourself as well if you're a teacher, because it's important to have that second opinion because AI is just a baseline and it's not always fully trusted in terms of something as important as student grades because you don't want angry students coming in a mob to your desk in the beginning of the period saying, "You let AI grade my assignment. Now I have a 0." Regardless, now the teachers and the students are supercharged with AI. But let's say that the student was really sneaky. So they got through the teacher and they used AI to do something that they shouldn't have done plagiarism, fabrication, something like that. And let's say they made it to the science fair, they're ready to apply. But science fair officials can also implement AI as a third guardrail. So let's consult Bemo how science fair officials can actually use AI to detect the AI usage when they are approving or denying different projects, and also we're going through the safety. And you'll kind of see some similar guidelines to the teachers, and you should expect some similar responses to the teachers using the AI detection, something like that. But in addition, they can also use AI to help make the reviewal process a lot easier. And whenever they're going through 800, 900, 1000, 1200 projects, and there are a lot of projects to go through, and it has to be very detailed with the SRC, it's important to also consider using AI to get some preliminary steps. So, for example, as in the SRC TechSF session, maybe we can give those forms to an AI and be able to have that AI take projects and see what forms they would need and what they should take into account when they're even conducting the project before they start. So, Bemo is suggesting some similar things as we had before with the teachers: AI usage disclosures, helping with project interviews, to be able to have that kind of one-on-one kind of discussion, and helping with detection of the AI by talking with the student one-on-one in the judging process. And as I was talking about, having AI review project details like the research plan, the abstract, make sure that overall there's no very clear red flags waving inside of those project details. And as we saw before, content detection tools for AI generation, verifying that what the student is writing about actually makes sense, because AI hallucinations could possibly lead to some inaccurate writing or data that the student may have. And finally, AI can also help make questions for the district officials to use in their applications to make sure that students really have that depth of understanding that is so important in science research. Now, we're going to start working with some AI tools that the science fair officials can actually use, because as I was talking about before, they can help speed up that kind of process, but it's important to make sure that they know what kind of tools they should be using, because they shouldn't fully rely on ChatGPT to review 1,200 projects for SEFH, in all fairness. So they should also have some other kinds of tools as well available for them to review projects to the fullest. So let's ask Bemo what AI tools are available that can be used by the science fair officials that can help them have a more efficient project review and approval process. And as in the TechSEF session and the SEFH directors were talking about, they do have a lot of projects to go through, especially with only 3 people on the SRC board. So using AI, so for example, having the AI-powered plagiarism detectors, so Turnitin, GPT-0, citation verification with Semantic Scholar, Cite AI, illicit or scholarly to help summarize the students' scientific writings, to have kind of a different perspective on those kind of tools, to make sure that the student's scientific writing is actually accurate. Then there are also some tools inside of Google Sheets, Excel, different AI plugins from what the students were using that can actually make sure that the students had some consistent data analysis, instead of kind of having something really disjoint that a human maybe wouldn't be able to catch because it's not in their area of expertise, but AI can help catch because it can look for specific things based on what you need to make sure of. Additionally, maybe a student is bilingual and they struggle with writing. So maybe a science fair official could help return that work to a student instead of just flat out denying them, and helping them with some possible revisions to their work, or asking, is this what you meant, using AI to help make that process faster rather than just completely denying them because they don't have the time. Finally, they can also evaluate the logbooks from the student using AI, as there are multiple tools like Notion that can help summarize the logbooks so they don't have to go flipping through 50 pages of a logbook to make sure the student actually did their own process. Now, the students have been using AI, the teachers have been using AI, the science fair officials have been using AI, lots of AI, but the students are still really sneaky. So the final step we have is for the judges to actually use AI and detect that kind of AI usage. So that way they can make sure students are responsibly using this AI and having it as an important part of the safety process. So let's ask Beimo, how can science fair judges look on the poster boards and make sure that the students' poster boards and their materials, to be able to kind of distinguish what the AI did, what the student did, are they relying on AI too much, something like that. And although the science fair officials and teachers have been doing their part reviewing the students' AI usage, it's critical to look at it from different perspectives, because teachers will be looking at it maybe from a grading perspective, of simplistic safety perspective, whereas the science fair officials will be looking for regulations like the ISEF regulations, the TechSEF regulations, the SFH regulations. Whereas judges are going to actually be looking at the scientific content because it's in their area of expertise, the medical field, the biological field, all those fields, and they can actually not only see themselves what is accurate and what is not by looking at the poster boards of student materials, but they can also make that process a lot faster, for example, in display and safety, by using AI maybe to scan a poster board, scan the logbook, and make sure that the students at least have some basic safety and AI usage transparency. So, what judges can look for in the live interview is the AI usage disclosure or some AI citations, which should be available, especially with the new regulations from ISEFH and SEFH. Additionally, they can look at the students' poster boards writing, the logbook writing, and all of those kind of topics. And they can see, is there some kind of issues in the students' writing? Do they have some discrepancies? Does it look like they wrote the whole thing? Or is there some kind of like disconnectedness? And also they can look at data visualizations. So there are some key things you can look for in AI generated images, text that doesn't look like it's written right, things aren't in the right order, repeated words, and all kinds of other things that are available online to see different lists of what is available to be able to detect that kind of AI usage in images. Additionally, a lot of students don't know how to really cite things. So even if they ask AI how to cite it, or they get AI to cite it, the AI might not actually cite it in the right format, or they might do one link at a time and the AI starts changing the format. So that's what you can see is in the AI, if the AI is doing the citations, then you can see if it looks like the articles don't really exist. Are the citations in the same format, or is it changed from APA 7 to APA 6 to Chicago to MLA back to APA? And you can kind of look for those discrepancies in the poster board and other aspects of the student materials as well to make sure they're really using AI responsibly. Finally, you can look at the students' poster board, especially since they're in middle school and high school. They aren't like business marketeers. They shouldn't really have an exactly beautiful looking poster. And in some cases, it may be, and you could just be skeptical, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be a few Google Slides taped onto the poster board. But if it looks like the student has had some professional graphic designer paid $100 to use this text, use these images, design it to make it look beautiful, it probably was AI because they don't have $100 to design the actual poster. They're either going to do it themselves, their parents, or they're going to use AI. So overall, we've covered student AI usage, teacher AI usage, and detecting AI usage, and judge AI usage. We're almost at the end of the session, but let's thank Bemo and ask him for our main takeaways today. So, Bemo is going to tell us what we should most importantly take away. And after that, I'm going to have a personal anecdote about what I feel is the most important takeaway from today. And overall, we've kind of been looking at a lot of repetitive themes. So, citing the AI usage, responsible AI usage. And it may feel like a lot of it is the same, but really, when you look at what you should really just take away from today, it all makes sense when it's connected together. And here we can see that overall, you should be transparent about your AI usage and clearly disclose how, and students should clearly disclose how they used AI, as well as teachers if they use AI. AI should always be supporting, not replacing student work, and AI should be used as an assistant to the critical thinking of the student. Additionally, teachers, science fair officials, judges are always in very important roles in the kinds of different things that they have to look at in the AI usage, as well as general safety overall. Citing and acknowledging AI, being transparent about the process across all boards is very important. And finally, responsibly using AI is important. You shouldn't be wary of the AI revolution. You should just use it well and be able to understand how to use it so that way you can actually unlock real insights. Finally, having clear policies in schools, districts, teachers' classrooms, and having critical thinking from both the teachers and the students is important to make sure that we are going to be ready for the future of AI in all aspects of our life. That's all I have for today. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Any questions before we conclude? The most important place to start is with Python, because Python is the main language everybody's using nowadays for their AI. In fact, actually, ChatGPT is made using Python. So you should always start there with the coding, basic coding with Python. And then after that, you can kind of start taking the baby steps. Small machine learning models, simple machine learning models. Perceptron is the most simple model, for example. Then after that, you can start getting into the more complex models. So for example, there in deep learning, there's different kinds of neural networks, recurrent neural networks, convolutional neural networks, different kinds of models that once students are really motivated and they have the strong foundation, they can start building the skyscraper. Actually, on inspiredkey.org, I actually have the AI training program that can help students get started once they have that foundation. So I actually cover those different deep learning models, as well as kind of starting a little bit with a little bit of foundation, but I think it's important to also have foundation for other places. So Python introduction to the libraries that should be used for deep learning, recurrent neural networks, convolutional neural networks, and more complex models as you go through the course. And I actually feel that I cover the topics very detailedly and make it in an easy to understand format, although in a long way. Some of these lectures are a few hours. But for dedicated students, I believe they can do it. And I feel that a lot of even middle school students can be able to go through the program and build AI projects.